Hey everybody, wanted to talk about this new show Velma. Wanted to strike while the iron was hot because it is very, very hot. It is white hot with hate. And there's, everywhere you look, you just type Velma in to any search engine and you will see people expressing their absolute hatred and loathing of this new show. This show is a spin-off of Scooby-Doo. Mindy Kaling, who I thought was actually kind of funny when she was on The Office, confession, but seems to have transformed into another insufferable twit. There's a premium of that sort in the entertainment industry, and so she was the brains, I guess, behind this new show, and it was her idea to play the main character, or she cast herself as Velma, the main character, who in the original Scooby-Doo is white, short, nerdy, not and sort of I maybe fat, but maybe squat would be a better way of describing her body type. Bespectacled. She's the intellectual of the group. She's the one who figures things out. But when they made this new show, it was like this supposedly origin story of how the Scooby-Doo gang got together. And I should add also that I'm not into Scooby-Doo. I mean, I'm fine with it. It was a staple of pop culture in the 70s and 80s when I grew up. It was sort of a background thing for me. It's a harmless, pleasant little cartoon. I was never a fan. I was never into it. I didn't watch it enthusiastically or anything. So I probably wouldn't have watched this anyway, this new show. Anyway. But I'm just struck at how once again the churlish representatives of the entertainment industry, this churlish mood that they've been in, this churlish, condescending, hostile mode that they've been in for the last several years, how it's just continuing, and it's like they can't stop themselves, they can't help themselves. Maybe they don't want to help themselves or stop themselves, but they must know that they're not doing themselves any favors, financially speaking, because every single one of these remakes or reimaginings or returning to a franchise, whether it's in the form of the Disney Star Wars sequels or other beloved franchises like the Terminator, and I would even include Santa Inc. Most people have forgotten about that show. It was 2 Christmases ago. It was during the Christmas of 2021 with Sarah Silverman playing this Jewish elf, this Jewish feminist elf who gets sick and tired of the patriarchy and wants to overthrow Santa Claus and become the first female Jewish Santa. Remember that one? Remember how that got hated on? Rightfully hated on. Also featuring Seth Rogen, who is of a certain ethnicity as well. Well, this new show, Velma, seems to be, I think it's arousing the same level of hatred that Santa Inc. did. People are really passionately hateful towards this show. And it seems with good reason, because the whole point of this show seems incredibly mean-spirited towards these characters that are generally rather beloved, and the fan base, wants to see the characters that were created and that they loved and that they followed and so forth. They want to see these characters be consistent, and they don't want to see Velma go from this sweet, kind-hearted, nerdy girl who figured out the mysteries all the time to the kind of bitchy, awful, mean, resentful, bitter character as she's being portrayed by Mindy Kaling in this show. Of course, there's also the race swapping, because you can't have the Scooby Gang was all white. We can't have that. We cannot have that. So they make Velma the main character in this show into Indian, just like Mindy Kaling is. Interestingly, they make, God, is it Daphne, the cute redhead? They make her Asian. They make Shaggy, the lovable pothead from the show, who sounded like he was voiced by Casey Kasem, but I don't think it was Casey Kasem who did his voice. But it was somebody who sounded a whole lot like Casey Kasem who did his voice in the cartoon. They made him black, and he's called by his regular name Norval instead of Shaggy, and he doesn't even do drugs. Wow, this is just turning everything on its head. It's subverting our expectations. What a crazy, what a bold and adventurous and stunning and brave show. And what's more, somebody's parents are lesbians, and Velma turns out to be a lesbian, and blah blah blah, and on it goes. You know the wokeification of everything. You know how they can't just have 4 white kids and a dog going around solving mysteries and have their sexuality not be an issue at all. That we can't have that anymore. That's just irresponsible. We have to change that. So says somebody. So Velma is just the latest in the long line, the long list. I've only listed a few, but other examples, but there are so many like that, where old franchises are taken and are revamped, retooled to supposedly appeal to a modern audience. But what they really mean by a modern audience are Twitter malcontents who probably don't watch this stuff anyway. They probably just get on Twitter and bitch about how terrible white men are. And by the way, the one character who doesn't get race swapped, the main guy, is his name Fred, the blonde, good-looking guy who's like the leader of the gang, the leader of the Scooby Gang, the tall, blonde guy. Guess what? They make him into a total dork, and a spoiled rich guy and a douchebag, and and he's the only one who they don't race swap. So it's the white man. Yeah. Boy, you're really being stunning and brave, shitting on the white man. Boy, that hasn't been played out at all. So, I mean, we can complain about the show as much as we want. And to be fair, I haven't watched it. I don't care to watch it. I've heard other people's summary of it. Like I said, I wouldn't have even really been that interested in watching it, even if it were something that nobody were complaining about, even if it were not so self-evidently awful and mean-spirited and just awful, just terrible on every level by every metric possibly that could possibly be used to measure its awfulness. I think it's interesting, and this is something I have begun to write about. I wrote a new piece for my Substack page, which I will link to below, and I'm going to be working on part 2 of this article over the next few days. because I don't, even though I've been for the last few minutes, admittedly, I've been grousing and complaining and bitching and expressing my discontent. I don't typically find it all that interesting just to say, oh, here's another show, here's another woke show where they're doing all this stuff, and this makes me so mad. Why can't they have more respect for their fan base and for the franchise as it was originally conceived? And not that those sentiments aren't good sentiments. I just don't feel like stewing in that sentiment is all that useful or helpful. I'm more interested in being analytical, and it seems that this era of just where you have these people in the entertainment industry coming out with these movies and these shows that are just openly hostile to the fan base, that are just spitting in the faces of the fans, and calling them names if they say, "Hey, you're spitting in my face. That's not good. I don't like that. Stop spitting in my face." Then they sling their slurs at this fan base who's rightly complaining about how crappy they've made these franchises. This trend began, I believe, back in 2015. The first example of it would be the first Disney Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens. Although at the time it wasn't really perceived that way. It wasn't perceived as a slap in the face immediately by the fan base. In fact, the fan base mostly liked it in its initial inception. It was just later, as time wore on, people started to say, "Who is this Rey character? Why can she do this? Why can this girl just do everything? Why is she so overpowered? Why is why is she able to beat up the bad guy? In the very first movie, where Luke had to in the original trilogy had to take his blows and get his ass kicked by Darth Vader before he could actually be the kind of Jedi that could defeat Darth Vader and the Emperor at the end of that trilogy. But here we see this girl, Rey, who has this power, who can do anything, the bestest ever, as Doomcock says. And so there was that, and then there was the debacle of the Ghostbusters sequel. It wasn't even a sequel; it was a reboot. They decided to remake Ghostbusters with 4 women instead of 4 men, and not have it not have it be related in any way to the original movie. Not say, okay, well, here in this those Ghostbusters were doing this thing over here, and here these 4 women are becoming Ghostbusters. Instead, it was just like sort of saying the Ghostbusters franchise never existed, and we're revamping it with women instead of men. So, and that did not get a very kind reception from the fan base. But it was like there was some at that point. The more the fans hated these woke remakes, the more these Hollywood people, these entertainment industry people, wanted to throw it back in the fans' face and say, okay, well, you don't like it, like Michael Scott says in The Office, you don't like them dating your mother, now I'm going to date her even harder. They basically said, you don't like how woke we're making your beloved franchise, we're going to make them even woker. And so it became this never-ending cycle from 2015 to the present. Now, has every movie been like this? No, of course not. And not even every remake has been like this. Like Top Gun, which I didn't see because I don't. It's not that interesting. I didn't really care for the original. I was around when the original came out, and I was just sort of like, okay. But I know that the second the Top Gun remake, Top Gun Maverick, refused to be woke, and it got all these plaudits and was the biggest movie of the year. There have been other examples like that, but it just seems that for the last 7 or 8 years, there's been this cycle that we really have not seen before from Hollywood, from entertainment industry people. I have believed for a long time that Hollywood and entertainment industry people and elites everywhere tend to look down on conservative red state Americans. I think that's been going on for a long, long time. This whole elites versus regular people with regular people values. That's been a thing for decades now, clearly. But it's only been in the last few years that it's really stepped up this much, where these Hollywood types seem to not care about the fact that they're making shows and movies that the fans don't like, and that they're losing money, and that they're alienating their fans. It doesn't make sense from a financial standpoint. Michael Jordan once famously said, Republicans buy my shoes too, and he was wanting not to get involved in politics, not wanting to endorse a Democrat, and that was what he had to say, and that was his shrewd observation that it wasn't in his best interest as a celebrity, as somebody who was a commodity. It wasn't in his interest to be some figure that alienated half of the country. So it seemed that more of the Michael Jordan mindset was more prevalent until recently, and more recently it's just been like, if you don't like it, then you're racist, sexist, and homophobic, and we don't want you anyway, and we don't even care if our movie flops, because we're, even if we're flopping and losing money and so forth, at least we're righteous. At least we're on the right side of history. And it's just been this really tiresome, really wearing. It really wears on an observer. If you're in the middle of it, if you can get some distance from it, it's kind of an interesting thing to observe, just because it's unique and it hasn't happened. I don't believe it's ever happened before. Just this open hostility of the entertainment industry towards so much of its fan base, that they're willing to alienate them over and over and over again. Again, I'm going to be writing about this subject. I've written a bit about this subject. I've written a part 1 about this subject, and I'll link it below. And I'm going to continue to write about it, and maybe publish part 2 over the course of the next few days. Anyway, if you have any ideas or comments about this phenomenon, what's really going on with this show, Velma being the latest salvo in this culture war, this Hollywood anti-fan kind of phenomenon, but seemingly one of the most it stands out because there's so much vehemence in the kind of things that people are saying against this show. So anybody have any ideas about it, or comments on what I have to say about it, please feel free to leave them below. And thanks for watching. And I'll also read my piece on my Substack page. And I'll talk to y'all soon.